such a shame that we weren't the same at all. Toka kwangu Kigumba, mimi nakumbuka mashamba zangu, nakumbuka nyumba yangu, nakumbuka gizi nilikuwa sishinde njala. Watoto wangu walikuwa nashinda biko nakula birai. Kila kitu kiko kunyumba na msururu hata kosa. Lakini leo hii tunashinda maisha ya makuni. Njoo kwa maana mtu anaweza kumbuka vya mingi vya kutoka Kigumba.
Maisha kule nyumbani ilikuwa mzuri juu nilikuwa na atelier yangu ya kushona. Nilikuwa na wanafunzi wenye mimi nafundisha ya kushona, lakini huko juu ya kuacha mashini sina jinsi ya kubakia biesa vile jinsi nilikuwa kule kwetu.
Kile chanzo kulima birai na kumaraka bila shida. Na ukichuruza unapata pesa bila shida lolote.
Ulipenda maisha pale?
Maisha pale ilikuwa mzuri, ni juu vita njina ya haribishi. Maisha ilikuwa mzuri.
Nema ya Congo itafute nguvu yoyote hii mavita za kuleta kila siku nazo ziweze kuisha. Population ilishachoka na mavita, watusaidie. Ona watoto wanataka kufia munjia, bazazi banakufia munjia. Hii yote bafanye nguvu yoyote mavita ziweze kuisha.
Hakuna tena kuuliza tunajua ni nani, na UN kule wanajua ni nani. Tunasubiri sasa sanction, tunasubiri wapatie Rwanda nini na sanction ambayo inamstahili. Ni kujua kwamba adui ni jeshi la Rwanda, ni jeshi la Rwanda ndio ambao inakuja ikijipitisha sawa M23, na sisi tunajua ina ulimwengu yote tayari ilishakubali.
Monsieur le Président, l'implication du Rwanda et sa responsabilité dans la tragédie que vivent mon pays et mes compatriotes des zones occupées par l'armée rwandaise et ses alliés du M23 ne sont plus discutables.
Based on what the government in DRC is talking about. He's blaming us, we are supporting M23, and then the M23 must go back to where they came from. We even try to explain almost on a regular basis how those people fighting there did not actually come from here.
There are very credible reports of support for armed groups by all sides, including the FDLR, by Congolese forces, and M23 by Rwandans. And our position is clear. Whoever it's by, whoever it's to, that support needs to cease for any armed group.
Any force commander that sit in this chair thinking that it's a military operation, you will not succeed, because it's not. It's not. It's a political, diplomatic, and military operation.
There's been a feeling in Kigali that Rwanda has the right to determine what goes on in Eastern Congo, and it has the right to help itself to the minerals there. It has the right to be a key player strategically, commercially, politically.
Vita imekuwa kama mungazi wa kupeleka watu kufikia madaraka. Ndio maana wamejua kama tukafanya vita tutapata kitu. Ya nne ni kuwa haisaulikani ulimwengu mzima kama nchi hii ni tajiri kwa madini, hasa ili jimbo la Kivu ya Kaskazini. Ni hiyo pia inaleta vita huko.
Iyo urebye kubatanga ibimenyetso ni guverinoma ya Congo nabahoze ari abasirikare n'abari muri societe civile bavuga ko barwanya u Rwanda batabica ku ruhande, niba abandi bari mu mitwe ingana nk'uburo iri muri Congo nibo babazwa. Ibyo ngibyo ni byanditse muri iyo raporo.
Le Rwanda, comme nous cessons de le dire, travaille avec les M23 ou les créateurs du M23, et les M23 est un mouvement réputé qui commet le massacre.
Mimi nilikuwa nakimbia. Tukaenda sasa kitu na kinapasuka. Tukakimbia tu. Basi kenda sikia umu hivi hii mishipa hapa na katika. Sasa nikeshindwa sasa kutembea. Ile kulala chini. Ndio ninaenda angalia sasa hii mwili yote huku yote inatoka. Hii hapa hii iko na selelemba hivi. Ninakamata nilikuwa vala kikwembe, nikikamata nikefunga mie peke. Sasa wale baba waliniona akasema hapana, huyo tusimwache hapa, wakininyangula. Nyangula wakinizungusha sasa mpori yote, sasa wakanifikisha sasa hospitali ya Bambo. Kama hospitali ya Bambo, basi kuniona waganga aseme hapana, huyu hatutamtunzia hapa, tumutume wapi? Ruchuru. Alosana kanitia mtugari, wakinikimbiza sasa hospitali ya Ruchuru. Fika kwa hospitali ya Ruchuru njoo banganga bakule njoo na wazungu njoo bakenitrete. Kama walinitia dawa gani message jua. Hapo njoo wanayoga walinitunzaka. Sasa nilifanya kule mwezi moja njoo wakisema wananja ona umu mko shoke sitaweza funyanga. Wanashona kisha ndani mko kama kachuma mwe wanapima metra baketia ndio bakekata sasa huku wanakaba nafinika sasa.
Sanya ilianzaka ilikuwa usiku saa 8 tukaanza sikia milio masasi na mabombe ziko napiga yulu kwenye masaba alikuwa biko. Kisha tukasikia kule yulu wetu wanaanza kimbia, wanaanza pita biko akimbia. Sasa mimi nilikuwa kana mimba na watoto nikashindwa kimbia mwele usiku. Bwana yeye akasema ngoa mimi nikimbie kwanza juu wanaume anabatafuta sana. Yeye akatoka mnyumba akakimbia akaniacha na watoto. Sawa ligombana kati bakashuka mwingine. Kufika kwangu juu nilikuwa nuzisha pombe kwangu kulikuwa na jenjua mabashe nje. Bakakata mulango ya kwangu. Wakanikuta niko ndani na watoto. Wakaanza kukamata zile mapombe wakakunywa, wakaninyang'anya pesa yote, nikamata na kingufu. kasema nikalalamika wataniua. Basi kumbe kule kunikamata na kingufu, bakapasula ile fasi ya mikoyo. Najua ile sababu mtoto akakufia mtumbo. Yakisibili kwa
The situation is really concerning in North Kivu in general, a situation in which you have more than 1 million people that have been displaced over the last several months. And this is in a context where already the health system was suffering. Were a lack of nutritional, a lack of therapeutic to provide for children, a lack of resources in the health centers and in the hospitals. And now, with all of the displaced people in the area, it's become much worse.
The majority of them have been in this condition for so long that they are very precarious. So most of them start in intensive care, and then as they get stronger and stronger, we move them through the stages of care. And then these are the children that are on their way to recovery. So from here, most of these children have already started to regain appetite, so they can feed themselves with our plumpinade. And they're already in much better condition than they arrived. And so once they're stable, then we send them back to the camps, but they will continue outpatient care.
Mtoto alikuwa anatapika na kuhara moto ya mingi. Nikaenda kwa hospitali, kufika kwa hospitali wakanipa dawa. Nikakatala, sabi nikatalaka kufika hapo tena turu ya pili, bakanitumana huku. Wakati wanitumana huku, bakampatia dawa.
Anaendeleaje sasa?
Iko bie.
Wamesema ana tatizo gani? Madaktari wamesema ana ugonjwa gani?
Ana ugonjwa wa kukosewa na chakula.
They've been sick in the camps for who knows how long, and by the time they get here, they're right on the edge, and we try our best to intervene. We give them the best care we can, but sometimes it's just too late for them, and they're so weak that they can't come back. So even just in the week and a bit that we've been open, we've lost some cases.
Presida anatuonesha hii sehemu hapa ndiko waliweza kuanza kuzika watoto. Nafasi ambapo zika wale ambao wametuacha watoto. Unaangalia hapa hakuna udongo. Hivi siku kunakuwa shida ya kifo, watafika tu wanatosha vile sawa hii na ile kisha wanaweka mwili hapo na kisha wanaongeza wanakamata mawe vile vile na wanazika.
Safari yangu tuliweza kukuya, tulisikia masasi ya mingi, ni siku ya 4, tukekuya tukelala munjia mara 3. Tulala munjia mara 3, tulikuwa nalala nje tunalovana na mvula. Tulisumbuka sana, mtoto mmoja kumugongo, wengine kushingo, kukokota mkono, watoto wakivimba miguu kukuya. Kufika hapa nako tukefikia nje, hatuna nyumba, tukikuwa nalala nje, kulala njala nje. Sasa njoo Croix tusaidia, waketuletea himabashe njoo sasa tulishajenga huko manyumba kwa kuwa na bakiamo hivi. Lakini Sasa hizi miezi zenye tuko humo, PAME ilikuwa kusaidia mwezi mmoja, sasa kunaisha tena miezi 2 ni habaya tupokeleshi. Kuna njala sana kabisa.
Jameni, amani ndio kitu cha kwanza. Hata mtupe chakula, hata muwape chakula, kama hakuna amani ni kusema hakuna kitu chochote. Hawa wote mnaowaona hapa walikuwa katika mashamba zao, walikuwa wakizoea kula mboga ya majani, wakila viazi, wakila nini. Kile tunachomwomba Mungu atusaidie kweli tupate amani, hao watu warudi makwao. Wakirudi makwao salama itakuwa, lakini kama bado wangali hapa, magonjwa yapo, magonjwa ya diarrhea, kolera, kipindupindu, si ndio hiyo? Suluba, watoto wadogo, homa kali, kikohozi. Kwa nini maisha wanayoyaishi ya msongamano?
According to the humanitarian response plan, 26 million people are in need in DRC in 2023. The humanitarian response plan is covering 10 million in 2023. 2022 it was 8.8. The crisis is worsening, so we need attention.
1, 2, 3, c'est parti.
Wasikilizaji wapenzi wa Go FM, karibuni kufuata kipindi chenu Haki za Mwanamke. Kipindi Haki za Mwanamke kinapeperushwa kila siku ya kwanza kwenye Go FM ambao ni radio ya haki za mwanamke. Kwa utangazaji munite Natasha Sikiraviti, lakini siko mimi peke ndani ya studio, Pasimu Balama ambaye ni mteteaji wa haki za wanawake.
Na ni kwa hiyo tunaenda sana sana ndani ya kambi ili kusensibiliser na memba ama communauté juu ya kuona namna gani kuproteger ama kukinga haki za wamama na watoto.
Wewe ndio support. Sasa ni kuhimiza wale wa mama na kuwaonesha namna gani wakati wanakutanana na hizo hali za ujeuri ni sharti wa denoncer, kwa sababu mara mingi wakati mama anajikuta huko ndani ya pori na amepatwa na hiyo tendo, mara mingi wanabaki kimya, hawatasema lolote, lakini tunawahimiza na kuwaonesha ya kuwa ukibaki kimya, wale ambao wanakuwa wanafaa hivyo hawataadhibiwa. Lakini wakati unadenonce na wakati unajiripoti, anaweza akapata msaada mbalimbali, msaada kimafikiri, anaweza akapata dawa ili kujikinga non seulement contre malali mbalimbali, mais vile vile kupata mimba na hiyo ujeuri kimafikiri.
Kwa tafuta makuni, naona mtu anashimama yule yangu, na mimi natumi niko tafuta tu makuni, na niambia sema toka wapi, na mimi niko tafuta tu makuni. Ase chenye niko natafuta, kama uchinipatie ndawa mtoto wako. Naambia niko tafuta nini, simbona sina makuta. Sasa tafute makuta. Asi niko naona zalaka watoto wazuri, mimi nataka tu unipatie. Naambia lakini sunisaidie, unisamee. Asi hapana family. Naambia hapana, tuligombanaka. Akasema kalalamika tu mtoto wako ndamuua. Asema hapana basi niue mtoto. Tuligombana kanishinda nini nguvu. Paka ataka fa benya dafa kamaliza. Amia ngashimama nililiaka saa mrefu. Na ile siku sikubebaka hata makuni. Nilipita ngashimamia ngaenda na makuni sikubebaka.
I mean, it's what we saw when we first arrived in this area and we started responding to the urgent needs that we were seeing in the health centers, in the hospitals. We were told that cases of sexual violence had more than doubled, tripled, sometimes quadrupled in some of these centers. So that's hugely concerning. And that's, of course, in a context where maybe not all women are aware that services exist that can help them when it comes to sexual violence.
Sasa nifika kunyumba bwana kaniuliza mbona uko sama yuni kufanya, naambia hapana. Sikutafuta tu makuni, nilifika munjia mvuli kakuwa mingi, sikutafuta makuni njoo ngashirudilia. Cho vile maisha niende kaka. Paka leo nishanyamaza. Leo mimi nabiambia jizi muone magumu tu kwa mama shamba. Na nyie peke mnapafika. Tuambie kama tutaishi hai.
Government ya Congo imeshindwa kupatia wakaaji ukingo, na hiyo ni mambo ambayo mimi mwenyewe kibinafsi sielewi.
In this country, the security situation, degradation. MONUSCO is one of the biggest and one of the most important peace operations in the world. MONUSCO are here for more than 20 years.
MONUSCO iko komplisi ya vita yote yenye iko natendeka mu jamhuri yetu ya kidemokrasia ya Kongo.
Population inasirika, miaka 22 ya mauaji ni mingi, na ndio mission ya kwanza ulimwenguni. Kwa leo raia wanasema MONUSCO iende, tumechoka na mauaji.
Watu pia walikuwa wakijiuliza toka zamani, MONUSCO ina kazi gani? Wanaua watu karibuni hata pembezoni mwa kempi za MONUSCO. Na sasa watu wanajiuliza, hao watu wana kazi gani?
La MONUSCO est devenue pour nous un problème de sécurité. Là où elle devait être la solution, elle devient le problème. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, nous devons nous organiser sur chaque site de la MONUSCO d'avoir des policiers, sur chaque véhicule qui roule. Mais tout ça, ça nous pose un problème. Lorsque vous avez le secrétaire général des Nations Unies lui-même, Antonio Guterres, dire qu'ils ne sont pas en mesure de combattre les M23, qui est considéré comme la principale source de l'insécurité dans cette partie du pays, il y a un problème.
MONUSCO iti 80% by'intwaro M23 ikoresha baba bazambuye FARDC 80%. Noneho ugasanga abandi nabo mu muryango w'abibumbye icyo kintu ntacyo bakivuzeho, batari ko intwaro zazende ebyiri berekanye n'izindi nibiva mu Rwanda.
How we can still contribute for the stabilization and for the peace here in the Eastern DRC. And how is possible a massive presence of troops here in this country and people are still dying. Because for some of them, the main task of MONUSCO is to engage the armed groups, but it's not true. The mandate is to provide protection for the civilians.
On a besoin d'une mission plus efficiente, plus proactive, qui puisse être en mesure de gérer les problèmes de sécurité qui sont bien connus. Et donc à partir de 2023, on va commencer les processus de retrait. Ça fait quand même 23 ans qu'ils sont là. Et quand les résultats ne viennent pas, ça ne sert à rien de se cramponner sur une mission dont on sait qu'il ne pourra pas atteindre les résultats dans la forme actuelle.
Sisi hatuko tatizo ni serikali ya Kongo ambayo hapendi amani. Tuliwaomba wafungule njia ya barabara saa ya RNB. Hii njia ya pili ya nini ya nchi yetu ya Kongo. Wamekataa. Tunasema yote tuzungumuze, wamekataa. Tunasema wale wa refugee yote wakimbizi warudi kwa makao hapo. Hao wamekataa, wanaleta maneno mzozo, waleta maneno ya vurugo ndani ya wale watu ili wasirudi na maeneo hapo. Shida ni serikali ya Kongo ambao hapendi amani, lakini kwa sisi tunapenda amani. Tunasema watu wote warudie kwao, watumike vizuri sana, watembee kisi waliopenda, lakini government ya Kongo anakataa hiyo maneno yote, anafunga barabara, anafunga boda, anafunga vitu yote. Shida sio sisi, shida ni government ya Kongo bwana.
Na vita ambavyo naviona hapa vinakuwa na vyanzo vinne. Ya kwanza, kuna wale wanatafuta kwa nguvu uraia wa Kongomani. Ya pili, kuna wale ambao wanatafuta ardhi, nafasi ya kuishi, nafasi ya kufanya mlimo, nafasi ya kufanya mafugo ya ngombe na vingine. Ya tatu, kuna wale wanatafuta madaraka na wanatumia nguvu, wanaua watu. Vita imekuwa kama mungazi wa kupeleka watu kufikia madaraka. Ndio maana wamejua kama tukafanya vita tutapata kitu. Ya nne ni kuwa haisaulikani ulimwengu mzima kama nchi hii ni tajiri kwa madini, hasa ili jimbo la Kivu ya Kaskazini. Ni hiyo pia inaleta vita huko. Kila mtu yeyote anapenda pale popote yupo afike naye aweke mkono kwenye maeneo ambayo yanakuwa na madini ili aanze kuwa pia ajifadhilie apate pesa.
Turufu. Ariko nibyo nkubwira, niyo warugira iturufu ntago bihindura ibibera hariya kuri tere. Ari nayo mpamvu iki kibazo gihora kizunguruka ntaho biva ntaho bijya.
Well, the obvious solution is some form of sanctioning. And what we've seen are just recently we've seen some sort of rather watered down attempts at sanctioning. So the EU in July issued a list of 7 men that it wanted to sanction. Some of these men were in the armed militia groups inside Eastern Congo. Some of them were part of the M23. And I don't have any doubt that these men are responsible for the bloodletting and the rape and the massive turbulence that we're seeing in Eastern Congo. But the point is, why remain at such a low level? We know that the chain of command goes a lot further up. And the people paying the price, of course, for that are the Congolese. So we see that there are over 1 million people displaced since March 2022. So they're paying a very, very high price.
Cyo navuga nuko butagifatiye igihugu cy'u Rwanda, bagifatiye umuntu ku giti cye. U Rwanda rubitanga ibisobanuro, hari ibyo rwatanze muri uko bakoze raporo ngaragaje bitaritayeho, nta n'ikibuza ku Rwanda rushobora gutanga ibisobanuro kuri uwo musirikare warwo, noneho kuri Leta Zunze Ubumwe za Amerika yafashe ibyo bihano. Ntago umubano wacitse, ntago umubano wajemo igitotsi, umubano ni mwiza, ibihugu byombi biravugana.
Gouvernement ya Congo inapashwa kufanya yote ili wapate solution. Mimi sijui kama watafanya manegociation na Rwanda na M23, kwani gouvernement ilikatala inasema itafanya negotiation. Lakini nafikiri kwa nini tukatae na watu waendelee kuuawa?
Ce n'est pas ça que les Congolais méritent de vivre dans leur propre pays. Et donc, la solution, c'est d'obtenir que ces Congolais puissent rentrer chez eux. C'est pour ça que justement nous faisons des pressions pour qu'à travers la diplomatie, nous puissions obtenir les résultats, que ces Congolais rentrent chez eux.
U Rwanda rero rwemera yuko nta yindi nzira ishobora gukemura ibibazo ibyo ari byo byose hagati y'ibihugu bituranye uretse inzira y'amahoro, inzira y'ibiganiro, kandi rwiteguye kuyijyamo.
Tensions between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo are resurfacing and intensifying. The DRC accuses Rwanda of backing the resurgent M23 rebel group active in its volatile east. Rwanda denies this claim. In the meantime, fighting in the eastern DRC has displaced more than 72,000 people. Could these tensions destabilize the region? We'll take an in-depth look at this simmering feud. Straight Talk Africa starts right now. Hello and welcome to Straight Talk Africa. A warm welcome to you. I'm Vincent McCory, sitting in for Haiti Adams. Now this week we'll look at the escalating tensions between two Central African neighbors, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. East African Army chiefs held discussions Tuesday on establishing a regional military force to restore security in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, according to a statement. Now, meeting in East DRC's commercial hub of Goma, the head of the militaries of the East African community stated that they had discussed the initial modalities of such a force without offering further details. DRC joined the East African community in March, a trade bloc that also includes Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, South Sudan, and Uganda as members. Uganda has committed troops to fight the notorious Allied Democratic Forces in Eastern DRC DRC on the Congolese government's invitation. But Kinshasa regularly accuses neighboring Rwanda of backing armed groups in its territory in pursuit of its own aims. Rwanda denies the claims and has in turn accused Congo's army of fighting alongside the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, an armed group founded by ethnic Hutus who fled Rwanda after participating in the 1994 genocide. Now, the DRC and Rwanda maintain radically different positions as to the reasons behind the feud. To get some clarity on the different perspectives, let's first hear from Anastasia Tudish in Kinshasa.
It's clear, there is no doubt, Rwanda has supported the M23 rebels to come and attack the DRC. Those are President Tshisekedi's first public remarks on the ongoing conflicts in the eastern part of the country. As he was visiting Congo-Brazzaville's President Denis Sassou Nguesso a few days ago, Mr. Tshisekedi stressed that a peace-seeking attitude should not be mistaken for weakness. On the field, the Congolese army has reported clashes between the M23 rebels and the national forces in the Rutshuru territory in the beginning of the week, saying that the rebels have been beaten in 2 locations and the national forces are gaining power and territory. In that context, very good news for the Congolese Catholic community, as Kinshasa and Rome has announced that Pope Francis's visit in the DRC, scheduled next month, is maintained, including a pastoral activity in Goma, the North Kivu main city, a visit under the sign of reconciliation and compassion, according to the two entities. The DRC is Africa's first Catholic country, 6th in the world. Meanwhile, in Kinshasa, a group composed of the main civil society organizations is scheduling protest actions for the days to come in the capital. Anastasia Tudish for VOA News, Kinshasa.
And now let's cross over to Rwanda. Here is reporter Eugene Uwimana in Kigali.
The position of the Rwandan government remains unchanged. Rwanda categorically denies allegations made by the DRC that it supports the M23 group in eastern DRC. Recently, Rwanda's envoy to the UN, Ambassador Clever Gatete, said the allegations are baseless. He therefore urged the UN Security Council to help break what he called a dangerous alliance of the FRDC, the Congolese army, and the FDLR rebel group. FDLR is a rebel group made of genocidaires who fled Rwanda in 1994. Recently, the chairperson of the African Union and the president of Senegal, Macky Sall, said he was gravely concerned by the situation. He also said he made several phone calls with both presidents, Paul Kagame of Rwanda and Felix Tshisekedi of the DRC, urging them to find a peaceful way of mending their bilateral relations. When you move around Kigali city, you can say that Rwandans are least concerned by these tensions. However, there are concerns that these tensions will destabilize the regional integration and cross-border trade. Eugene Uwimana for VOA News, Kigali, Rwanda.
Well, thanks Anastasia and Eugene for those reports. Now for an in-depth look into the DRC Rwanda situation, I'm joined by our guests via Skype from South Africa, Kwesi Mkibisa, Research Fellow, Center for Africa Diplomacy and Leadership, University of Johannesburg, Pretoria. And via Skype from Nashville, Tennessee, Claude Gatebuke, Executive Director, African Great Lakes Action Network. A warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, thank you. I want to begin in South Africa, and I know I butchered your second name big time, Kwesi. But first, as a person who analyzes security and looking at this conflict from the outside inside, how much of a threat do you see this is regionally for the sake of, the peace and unity of the Eastern Central African region?
Thank you very much, Vincent. Indeed, as an outsider looking in, it is something to be concerned about. The Democratic Republic of Congo, for all the statistics of potential and all of the statistics of human, economic, social, and stability costs, is an important country where one development or a number of development will have a ripple effect. When some of us were observing the developments, we use a lens which we call a regional conflict system. It's when an event in one country actually impacts on a number of its neighbors. And what has happened, which is basically the breakdown of this conflict, of this peace process, or at least the detente or coming together of finding dialogue between the DRC and Rwanda as part of a broader regional effort. It's worrying. It is taking back the confidence that had been built in order to find solutions to issues such as improving trade, such as improving transboundary governance, and a whole range of other issues. So we should be worried, and we should be making sure that our focus encourages not just simply the two countries, but the region as a whole to lend a hand wherever they can.
Yes, and I have to mention that we had some technical issues. We couldn't be joined by another friend who is actually a native of the DRC. But Claude, I want to come to you. And, you know, as a person also from the region, let's first go back in time, because when people see what's happening now, you know, they may just kind of reach conclusions on the basis of the recent news reports. But what is the genesis of the conflict between, or the feud between the DRC and Kigali?
The genesis actually goes way back to 1981 in Uganda, when Museveni, the president of Uganda currently, started a war with the NRM, the National Resistance Movement, which is the party in power in Uganda. He, along with many Rwandan refugees, were able to win that war in 1986 and take over Uganda. And then in 1990, Museveni, along with others on the outside of Rwanda, sponsored a rebellion into Rwanda that brought the RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, into Rwanda. They fought a 4-year war that culminated in the genocide in 1994. And the RPF won the war. Millions of people fled Rwanda at the time, many of them going into the DRC. At least 1.5 million went into the DRC, which was almost a quarter of the population of Rwanda at the time. And then from there, Rwanda started expressing security concerns. Then in 1996, so it started with the NRM, then the RPF. In 1996, a rebellion was formed called the AFDL. Again, it was by Rwanda and Uganda, sponsoring former president, longtime dictator Mobutu Sese Seko. And then the AFDL won, took over the Congo. And then there were other rebel groups that were born out of the AFDL called the RCD that transformed into the CNDP. And now today we have the M23. However, the issues of the Congo go hundreds of years back, because this is the legacy of not only the regional conflicts, but also colonialism.
And incidentally, actually, the king of Belgium, the country that colonized the Congo and really, you know, had imposed a reign of terror, is visiting the DRC. We may touch on that, but I want to stay a little bit with you, Claude. So it's very clear from what you have stated that Rwanda, the DRC, and Uganda have actually been friends over time, trying to find peace, trying to even achieve democracy. So we look at the reality. The fact is that this was never always relationships of animosity. But what would you say has made it difficult for these countries to eventually become really more, coexist more peacefully than would be desired by the people of the region?
The peaceful coexistence actually was there prior to 1996, when both Rwanda and Uganda invaded the Congo. What is the issue that fuels this conflict is the greed, not only there's an issue of leadership in the Congo and governance in the Congo. However, there's also the issue of interference by both neighbors, Rwanda and Uganda, into the Congo. That's basically made it impossible for Congo to stabilize. Of course, they don't just invade and take over the Congo. They are extracting resources, and they are exporting minerals that are not found in both countries and enriching especially people in the leadership of those countries. And in addition, they aren't acting alone. Rwanda and Uganda are heavily backed by Western sponsors, the US and the UK and the European Union. All of these have made it impossible for a peaceful coexistence because the people themselves are friendly. The people themselves are sisters and brothers, but the leadership in the countries, plus the geopolitical situation in the Congo and its resources that fuel our appetite, the feed our appetites, are fueling this impossible, this conflict. So today what we have is just a continuation of an occupation of the Congo in order to extract the resources.
Kwesi, you have been studying this situation, the issue in the Great Lakes region, in terms of the claims that Rwanda makes. And Rwanda is a smaller country, so sometimes, of course, it says it needs to be concerned about its security. What would you make of the accusations against the DRC that it actually harbors people, groups of people who committed genocide, and over these years, these people have been a threat to Rwanda?
I mean, it's a long-standing accusation. It's a long-standing concern. It is genuine. I think the reality of the matter, I think, as Claude has indicated, the fact that when Rwanda was actually the RKF had found expression in the country, those who are known as genocidaires crossed over into the DRC. And the relations between the two countries never sought to go not to the heart of the problem, but to resolving the existence of these genocidaires in their historical as well as in the contemporary context. So the concerns of Rwanda have always been genuine. What we as observers who are actually understanding the end that Rwanda has put in military terms to respond to the threat of these genocidaires in historical and contemporary terms, we have not found it to be equal or to be equaled by the efforts of actually ensuring an environment back in Rwanda that would respond to now the offspring of those original genocidaires to actually be part of this new democratic Rwanda that is stable, that is socially cohesive, and that plays a role in regional and continental politics. Whenever we are looking into the situation of is the threat of genocidaires more than the opportunities there are for Rwanda to actually welcome its own citizens or children or their offspring, we have found problems in actually reaching that conclusion, because we see a military response, we see a regional posture that seeks to go and find out all those that threaten the country. But we don't see, on the other hand, an equal measure of investment on actually saying that where are these other Rwandese that had actually run away and had committed genocide? Because Rwanda has had a very credible process of transitional justice for those that had been identified as genocidaires. But it only exercised and executed that transitional justice program to the Rwandese that were found in the country, but not those that were found outside. And I think that for those of us who have been observing for quite a while, these are some of the contradictions in terms of investment, in terms of commitment.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of support of this different rebel groups, Rwanda, accuses the DRC of supporting ADF, which threatens it, and of course the FDLR. And on the other side, the DRC, accuses the Rwanda of supporting M23. So the question is, has there been an interest in each country, working to not only neutralize, but perhaps attain some peaceful resolution to these threats from all the forces that we have mentioned? If I may stay with you in South Africa. Kwesi.
Indeed, this has been one of the criticisms of the multiple and billions of US dollars of investment in the peace processes in the Great Lakes region is that our lens has almost always defined domestic issues in terms of their manifestation in regional stability terms. We have seen the presidents of Rwanda and the DRC playing a part, or at least acknowledging the fact that domestically there is still a lot of work to be done, despite the fact that regional actors such as Kenya in the form of the Nairobi Accord and the International Conference of the Great Lakes, the Economic Community of Central African States have all come to assist them find a lasting solution for a restive region. What has been lacking is indeed what you are pointing out at, which is what are the domestic arrangements that need to be in place in order for these countries to exercise in a fully sovereign manner their country's contribution in making sure that the region is stable. What we have found, I mean, from studying the conflict, and of course, even these new counter-accusations, two things, I'll be very brief. Firstly, the definition of one country supporting another country's rebellions through support to rebel groups is not entirely materialistically justifiable, primarily because the reason why the DRC is not in a position to put a final end to the existence of the FDLR is because there are no arrangements in Rwanda to ensure that the former genocidaires who are currently organized as the FDLR in the DRC would actually find an environment that will be accepting and that will be inclusive and that will enjoin them to the stability of the country. Vice versa, the inability of the DRC as a country to ensure that they have got an extension of its sovereignty beyond Kinshasa and other metropoles, but to the restive North Kivu region, ensures that because there isn't an extension of governance, that region becomes a playground for almost all other tendencies. This might not necessarily mean that it is the designs of Rwanda to have disruptive elements and vice versa.
And thank you. And Claude, yes, I want to jump in and you may want to comment or respond to that, but I also wanted to ask you additionally, do these rebel groups, are the different countries, or the two countries actually, in a way maybe okay, or just kind of okay with them existing, to use them as leverage in some way?
We'll start with your question, and I would like to clarify some of the things that Kwesi has spoken about. One is, yes, I think it's very convenient for these two countries to have these rebel groups and use them as leverage. And in fact, for both the Congo and Rwanda with the FDLR, I think it's a convenient force because there's only hundreds of FDLR fighters. But this war has gone on for decades. And the other thing is, with the Congo, they have shown no incentive to actually neutralize the various forces in the country. However, it is a destabilized country, and for many years, and with heavy forces. Now, when it comes to the current M23, it has been shown in previous years, in various documents and evidence, that generals that report to Paul Kagame, his top military advisor, General James Kabarebe, General Charles Kayonga, and General Charles Jacques Nziza, were sponsoring and providing logistics, recruiting, and providing funds to the M23. Additionally, refugees that went into the Congo are not genocidaires. They were women and children. Many of them died there. Some of the people who went to the Congo committed the genocide, and that is who should be held accountable. However, it is not correct to state that those who ran to the Congo were genocidaires. There was over 1.5 million people that actually ran there. I went to the Congo, fled to the Congo after surviving the genocide in Rwanda. The other thing in Rwanda exports terrorism not just to the Congo, but to other countries, including South Africa, including here in the US. A Freedom House report just came out showing how they abducted Paul Rusesabagina back to Rwanda. They are coming after people like me. They accuse us Paul Rusesabagina saved people during the genocide. I survived the genocide, but they accuse us of denying the genocide.
Now,
basically, they weaponize the genocide as blackmail, not only inside of the country but outside of the country, and justifying the violence in the Congo. And I think that is that should be made clear.
Now, Claude, I'm sure you know what you've experienced, you know what you've gone through, but also we know that Rwanda denies most of the accusations, especially of sponsoring M23, and even the kind of direct mention of some of the generals that you just mentioned. Rwanda categorically says it does not support that group, and we don't have officials from both governments to kind of verify some of those. So we just know that that's their position, that they do not support. And of course, the DRC also claims it does not support ADF or FDLR. Those are the official positions of this government. Well, we want to take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll look at the different efforts that are being made at the moment by the East African community, the kind of approach they're having in order to resolve this issue. So let's go for a short break, and we'll be right back.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Participate unconditionally in the political process to integrate a program of disarmament, demobilization, community rehabilitation, and stabilization. Failing this, they will be consequently pursued by the sub-regional force.
Well, that was Celestin Bala, head of the Congolese Armed Forces. Also attending the security meeting in Goma was General Robert Kibochi, head of the Kenyan Armed Forces.
We, as the defense chiefs, have been mandated to implement the EAC heads of states' decisions for the establishment of a regional force to help contain and, where necessary, fight the negative forces. This mandate requires of us to fully understand the underlying issues to the conflict towards the development of necessary response mechanisms.
Well, gentlemen, we want to talk a little bit about those utterances by those military men there. This is significant. The reason why I wanted to listen to this is because this is a new dispensation in the region. The DRC and Rwanda, actually the newest members of the East African community. And now we're seeing the militaries of the region coming together to figure out how best to neutralize the threat that face both countries, Rwanda and the DRC. So let me start with you, Kwesi. What do you make of that new kind of chapter that the DRC and Rwanda find themselves in as members of the East African community?
Well, I mean, you're quite right, Vincent. It is a new chapter, but the development of there being a direct military confrontation approach is not entirely new when it comes to the DRC. We'll all recall that almost a decade ago, under the aegis of the United Nations, the Southern African Development Community nations of South Africa, Malawi, and Tanzania formed part of a rapid reaction force, which is popularly known as the International Force Brigade. This meant that through under the framework of international cooperation found in expression of the United Nations deploying there would now be a capability to actually do away with the negative forces. But not only under the United Nations and the regional bodies such as SADC, which only the DRC is a member of, but also the cooperation, or rather a bilateral framework, which is the cooperation between the Congolese army and the UPDF, which is the armed forces of Uganda, in Operation Shuja, which is looking at actually giving expression to a military response to the ADF. So it is quite interesting that the East African community at this point in time sees value, because they wouldn't have taken that decision if they didn't see value. What do they see value in? They see value in actually contributing to the approach of the DRC government, which is threefold. You will all recall that the DRC government, in response to the restive nature of the Eastern DRC, North Kivu specifically, has almost said that it wants to negotiate. It wants to ensure that if those negotiations lead to progress, there will be some disarmament and demobilization. And as we had in your clip, in the introductory clip, community rehabilitation. But lastly, it does not necessarily repudiate the right of the state to actually deal with these negative forces with a military response. Now, it appears as if there is almost not a sanction only, but an endorsement, a commitment to support, because I think the East African community, with a more economic integration orientation, understands the economic benefit of the participation of the DRC and the strategic nature of the Eastern DRC in the economic output and opportunity of the DRC. So this is not entirely new, but we need to say that there has to be caution. Studies that have been done on these sorts of responses have shown that without a concomitant socio-economic and developmental response, we will never finish the problems of the Eastern DRC and such like situations only with a military response.
Yes. Now, Claude, of course, military response is not a new thing, but I think what is really new is that now the Rwanda and DRC find themselves as members of the East African bloc, which means now they become brothers. They can sit around the table. Do you see the hope now in the peace and lasting peace in the Eastern Congo, and also the relationship between the DRC and Rwanda in their membership? Because they have a place now where they can sit around the table with their counterparts and talk about the situation there, both militarily now and, of course, at a political and diplomatic level.
The hope lies further beyond just the East African community. And I'll echo the words of Dr. Mukwege, Nobel Peace Prize winner from the Congo, who has been treating women affected by major atrocities in the Congo. He says that there cannot be lasting peace unless there is justice, and I 100% agree. There has to be justice in order for it there to actually be
Yeah, bro. No problem. I don't want €5, €5 for you, no problem. But yeah. Manchmal, and ich habe keine Geld, ich sag billig 5 Euro, 10 Euro. Später du sagst auch Mama. Ich gebe dir, das ist die richtige Frage. Ja. Aber wenn nicht gut sein, zum Beispiel, ich sage billig, gib mir 10 und ich nicht gebe, das ist nicht gut. Ja, das ist nicht gut. 10 Euro ist nichts. Ja, Scheiße, mach keine so. Ja, das ist richtig. Ja, das ist richtig. Du weißt das, Digga. Ja. Aber manchmal, wir haben kein Geld. Manchmal? Ja, nicht immer, wir haben Geld. Manchmal haben wir kein Geld und wir brauchen Geld. Und wir können gefunden dieses Geld. Billy, ich will PC kaufen, ja. PC? Wie deine. Oh. Ich will PlayStation. Ja, bro, if you want it, bro. If you want, ich will GTA spielen. Wie viel kostet alles? You mean this one? Do you have a TV? Ja. Das for do you have a TV? 5. Ja, do you have a TV? Hast du ein Fenster? Das wie viel? Oh, du brauchst auch 4 oder 5 das. This is the PS. Ja, PS4. Wie viel kostet? Das ist nicht so teuer, Digga. Wenn du hast so 200, Digga, ich kann kaufen für dich. Du kannst geben, weil ich will kriegen, du kannst geben, dann ich kann Versuch, ich kann nicht geben und so. Das ist so weiter, ja, in
Problems.
no, a lot house.
Wallah.
Ja, Lighthouse. Wenn du brauchst du jetzt?
Morgen, ich bekomme.
Ah, Digga, warum morgen, Digga? Ja. And then why you say? Warum du hast gesagt, wenn, ja, Digga. Guck mal, du gesagt morgen. Du hast schon gesagt, du morgen. Ja, du kennst deine Liebe jetzt. Du hast nicht. Ja, aber du brauchst das, Digga. Ja, du brauchst das. Ja, manchmal ich brauche das und ich habe kein Geld dabei. Ich sage dir morgen, bitte.
Oh. Scheiße.
Das ist so scheiße, Digga. So scheiße, du. Du weißt das. Ja, aber manchmal, also, kein Geld.
Alles geht.
Digga, alles Geld, Digga. Immer Geld. Wenn du willst diese kaufen. Geld. Digga, was ist das? Hä? Digga, wieso hier draußen nicht gegangen? Du willst etwas kaufen, Geld. Was ist das, Digga? Geld, Digga. Geht die Probleme, Alter.
So viele Geld.
Aber Geld Problem.
Geld Auto kaufen, Geld Führerschein machen, Geld.
Alles Geld, Digga. Wenn du hast kein Geld.
Auch Geld.
Du, wenn ich sehe die. Ja, Digga, warum nein?
Genau, Geld, ja.
Ja, warum nein, Digga?
Kaufst du nicht?
Geld. Geld. Und du kaufst auch Reuter. Wenn du hast Geld, du kannst kaufen diese Heim, Digga, alle. Geld is everything, no? Geld. Ja, das ist ein big problem, Digga. Every person, wir haben Problem mit dieser Scheiße.
Geld.
Das ist wie viel? Wie viel?
Teuer.
Ja, und diese Geld, Problem, Digga. Und du hast hier bekommen. Aber
Arbeiten bekommst du Geld.
ja, und wenn du arbeitest und du in deiner Hand, du gibst Geld bekommen. Geld bekommen, immer Geld bekommen. Geld bekommen in deiner Hand, Digga. Du gibst das.
Hier Geld.
Gib's auch. Gib mir Feuer, ja. Kennst du diese Lieder, Digga? Warte.
Ja, diese Auto, unten, ja.
This one.
In der wunderbaren Weihnachtswelt.
Wait.
Meine Feuer, Billy.
Your voice here, bro. Me too, I have fire, bro. You?
Yes, you have it. Okay, bro, I want to go.
You wanna go?
Komm später.
Okay, bro.